Hello and welcome to ChinnyVision. This time a look at the future of storage for your ZX Spectrum. SD card storage has come along leaps and bounds for Specky owners in recent years, and there is a new player on the block. So I was at the Futurist 8-Bits house about a year ago when we did the Vectrex video, and he handed me a piece of plastic and said, "What do you think about this?" It was a case prototype for a new Spectrum DivMMC device that he and Timemouth Software were working on. Forward on another 6 months, I get an email saying, do I want to take part in the beta testing of his new device, as yet unnamed? I said yes, and a few days later, a circuit board for a ZX Spectrum arrived, wrapped up entirely in Kapton tape. Plugged it in, had a play and started testing. And we got through a few revisions, I think 3 in all, until late in March, this turned up for the Spectrum, the final version of his interface. So let's go over to the table of justice to take a look. So the device turned up, and yeah, it looked pretty much like the prototype, or the last prototype I've been using, which was printed in a 3D printed thing, but worked brilliantly, even if it didn't look so great. But this turned up, and it does look absolutely brilliant. It's tiny. It's got the clickable SD card in the back. Futurist 8-bit on the bottom there. Properly injection molded casing. Very nice. Feels authentically 1980s. Properly manufactured. None of this 3D printed stuff. And the thing we're going to mention is what I had been using up to this point, which was the DivMMC Enjoy, which I bought a couple of years ago, and I've never reviewed on the channel because I've never been completely happy with it. And you can see the size differential there. This one had to go back once because I was having terrible problems with it, and it came back from Holland, and it never really was much better after that. But you can see the absolute size difference here. I mean, this thing's got the SD card flapping out of the back there, and it's 3D printed as well, which is interesting when you get it, but actually it's not as sturdy as proper injection molded casing. And that's just going to, yeah, it's all right, but I mean, just the size differential. Remember, that's hanging out the back of your Spectrum like that, and you've got the dip switches on the side, which means every time I change between models, which I do a lot for the videos, you've got to go, oh, right, okay, look at that, right, flip that dip switch there, flip that one there to get the right configuration. It's just a pain. This one is jumperless. I've plugged it into all of my Spectrums. It works on all of them. And the also the joystick ports on the back, so you're not putting weight down on the Spectrum because it's hanging off notoriously finicky Spectrum expansion ports. So, again, you're out the back as opposed to on the top there where you could be wiggling up and down. Also, very nice touch. There's a little bar across the bottom there that hopefully you can see. So it rests nice and flat on the desk. In fact, let's plug this into a Spectrum. Let's get a Spectrum out here. There's a +2. And yeah, it plugs in. This is a +2. Obviously, it works in any Spectrum. You just plug that into the expansion port there. And if you haven't had anything plugged into your Spectrum expansion port before, give it a clean before you plug it in, because chances are you'll plug it in, it won't work because you've got 30 years of gunk on your expansion port. I had a +3 that I don't use because I've got a couple when I was just doing beta testing on this, and I plugged it into the other +3, and of course it didn't work because it had nothing plugged into it for 30 years, and I had to give it a couple of cleans before it worked. But it plugs in and it goes in the back there. And you can see it's nice and neat in the back, not too much weight going onto the back of the Spectrum. Let's flip that around so you can just see it. Because really this is the business end, isn't it? But look, when you put the machine down, just gently supports the Spectrum just at the right amount there. That's vital. I mean, let's put this one in just to show you the difference. I mean, they're not going to be happy about it, but I paid money for this one. So, you know, yeah, I mean, it rests, but I mean, look, you can't even see that. I haven't even got it in frame. It's hanging out the back, and then there's that, and then, or you can have it like that, which is even further out, so it's going to be to there. So, You know, that's a big old difference, isn't it? And considering this one isn't even jumperless. And the other thing is here, and you'll see this later, is these light up, which is quite nice. And I should point out at this stage, because I've been involved with this device in a very limited way from the beta testing stage, and been able to feed back comments of things that should be improved and changed and test out what works on different spectrums, I've been sent this final version free of charge. Now, a lot of YouTube channels don't declare, and the viewers as well, don't declare that when they get sent stuff free of charge, and they give a device an easy ride. So I want to be upfront and say, look, this is what I've been sent. I've been involved with this for quite a while. I'm going to tell you what I think, but it's up to you to make up your own mind. What I want to do here is be honest with you. That out of the way, here's a grey Spectrum Plus 2 with the interface on the back all at a funny angle. Let's put the power in. Fiddling around getting it in. The LED on the device lights up, and here we go. The device boots and you go out to 48K basic, and then the device, the LED on the light go, and then the LED goes red, and there you go. You're in basic. Press the red LED, and you go into the menu, and you can select a game. I'm going to select some snapshots that I've saved previously for ChinnyVision when I've reviewed games. Here's Head Over Heels, and it works perfectly. Absolutely brilliant. Loads in very quickly, and that's a snapshot I saved from Head Over Heels when I reviewed that game. Press the button again, back to the menu, leaves you where you were, and you can go and select another game. We're going to the games menu this time. And this isn't the supplied SD card, this is my SD card that I use myself for ChinnyVision. Unfortunately, as you can see, the OS, which isn't written by the Future's 8-bit and Time Mouth software, only supports 8-character file names, which is a little bit annoying, really. All these devices do that. Now you'll see there that that game did not load. Now there's a very, very good reason for that. Not all Spectrum snapshots and tap files are born equal. There's many different versions of Spectrum, there's many different emulators, and sometimes some of them are simply bad. It's nothing to do with the Spectrum or the SD card interface. It is just to do with how that snapshot was saved originally. I'll demonstrate this by picking the other copy of Chase HQ in this directory. And it works absolutely fine. So if you do get one of these devices and you have a problem with a particular game, then try another snapshot, because the Spectrum community have been creating snapshots and things. I was doing that on my Amiga back in 1994, and some of this old stuff is still knocking around, and you may have no idea how some of those older images have been created, so you just need to find yourself a newer one. So there you go, Chase HQ 128 working perfectly. Over to a Plus 3 to show a different Spectrum, and we were in that directory I showed you before. We load up Pit Fighter from when I reviewed that, and straight in. Now, I've extensively tested this device on all my Spectrums as part of the beta testing process, and it works absolutely brilliantly on all of them, even my 4S, which we did have some initial problems with the very early revisions of this device while it was still in beta testing, but all that stuff has been sorted out and it now works perfectly reliably. Every issue I've had has been down to dodgy snapshots or tap files. You find another version, it works perfectly. One thing I should mention is the colour changing button on the device. Now, the sequence of colours changes depending on which model of Spectrum you've had. So if you've got a Plus 3, it seems to be reversed from green and red from a grey Plus 2. So what do I think of the DivMMC Future? Well, it's absolutely brilliant. Now, disclaimer, I've been testing this and feeding back on it since one of the earliest prototypes, even when there was no case and it was just wrapped in tape. And even back then, it still worked more reliably than the competition, which is extremely impressive for a bare circuit board wrapped in tape plugged into the back of my Spectrum. As the revisions have gone on, the device has become more mature, and the final finishing touch on this is this superb injection moulded case. The device seems to be very competitively priced. It is absolutely tiny compared to the competition. It looks small. It's styled in something that looks like Sinclair themselves could have made it. All these devices use the same browser software to browse through the games, and there is a problem with that because it's 8 characters and that can make things a little bit messy when trying to scroll through. Nothing can be done about that unless the original coders or someone else picks up that project. The device works flawlessly on all the spectrums I've got here. It really has been extensively tested. I've put many hours into beta testing this across my 48K, my Plus 2s and my Plus 3s, and I know other people have done the same as well as part of the development process. From a ChinnyVision point of view, having to change jumpers whenever I change between machines on my older device was a real bind. All of that's gone. This device is completely jumperless. For the size, the convenience, the styling and the price, the DivMMC Future has to be a winner.